guys, Stu here. So sorry about the lack of review yesterday on the channel, the little gap in the old review everyday thing I've got going on at the moment. I had to take a break from all of the film stuff that's been going on this week at the festival. It's been manic. But I'm back now to talk about the next film I saw at the festival, which was Yorgos Lanthimos' latest film, The Favourite, which turned out to be one of my favourites of the festival. That's right, it's a new one from Mr. Yorgos Lanthimos. Incredible name aside, you might know him as the director of films like Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Lobster, Dogtooth. An incredibly strange director, you might say, but I've been a very big fan of all of his work. Killing of a Sacred Deer was one of the darkest films I saw at the festival last year, so I was incredibly excited to see what he'd do with this one. It looked mental in the best way possible, and I'm happy to say it was an absolute flipping blast. Was that not the most British sentence you ever heard come out of anyone's mouth? If you haven't heard about it, it's basically like a period set tragicomedy about two cousins in the 18th century that are fighting to become... Don't say it, Stu. Don't say it. The favourite of Queen Anne. It is impossible not to make that joke. Couldn't have called it something different, could you, Yorgos? See, it's period, but it's not period how we've seen it done before. It is a complete subversion of everything we've come to expect from a period genre film. I mean, at first glance, if you would have watched the thing with the sound off or something, it's got all the visual aspects you'd come to expect from a period piece. You know, the gorgeous settings, the gorgeous costumes. Side note, my favourite thing about watching any period piece on the screen is playing Spot, the National Trust house that Stu went to when he was a kid. They just pop up and I'm like, I've been there! I've been there! You're not fooling me this time, Mr. Camera. I know your tricks. But kind of everything else is not typically what you'd expect to see in a period piece, and that's putting it lightly. All of the sort of gender and sexuality politics are twisting some of the stuff we've come to expect when we sit down and watch a period film, but it's also much funnier and just batshit than we'd expect to see from a typical period drama when we sit down and watch them in that kind of weird, absurd way which only Yorgos Lanthimos seems to be able to tap into in his own weird, surreal way. And that's one of those things that is just immensely satisfying to watch, the clash of a period piece like this and Yorgos Lanthimos' style of direction. I shouldn't be doing that. It should be that, really. But it's kind of merged and morphed together in such a crazy fashion you just can't look away. It's certainly not the darkest of Lanthimos' films. In fact, it's probably the most accessible, I'd argue. And that may come down to the fact that he wasn't actually behind the screenplay in this one. He was just a director. So it's written by Deborah Davis and Tony McNamara. Probably not saying the names right. But that was an interesting thing to see as well, how Lanthimos would take on someone else's screenplay and work it into his own crazy, absurd magic. Happy to say he pulled it off. As I said, it's probably his most accessible, definitely not his darkest. That may go to Killing of a Sacred Deer, which was just fucked up in all the right ways. And as a result of that, I don't know whether I'd rate it as highly as some of his previous work, but also I guess it's one of those films which leaves you feeling slightly different to his previous projects in that it doesn't make you just sit there in soul-crushing pain for a while, questioning life and everything. And actually, I don't really, thinking about it now, think that makes it any less of a film than his previous work. So maybe it is one of his better ones. I don't know. We'll have to see on future rewatches how that goes. But on that note, I don't think it's going to be a problem rewatching his film. It's arguably the most rewatchable of all of his films because I could go straight back into it as soon as it finished. This thing was an absolute riot. Honestly, the screenplay was just continuously laugh, 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 laugh. A line's either like an absurd insult or this weirdly observant joke. It's the sort of comedy where you're like, that is so strange, but it's making me think about things. Satire. And it's made all the more attention-grabbing and satisfying by the performances from our three central actresses here, who are all doing fucking amazing work. You're going to see a lot of award nominations, I think, for some of these, and that's going to be the big discussion of this film. People are coming out going, I thought they were the best. I thought they were the best. They're all great in the film, and they bring slightly different things to each of the roles. So we've got, like, Olivia Colman, who's like this baby-like queen in a film, who's a joy to watch and is probably the one that's going to be getting the most attention performance-wise, just because it is the most obviously crazy performance, I guess. But Rachel Weisz is much more cunning character in the film, and I actually think that, for me, she was the best part of the film. I haven't seen Rachel Weisz this good for a long time, and I just thought she was wonderful. But then you also throw Emma Stone into the mix, who starts off looking one way, like this kind of, I guess, clumsy little maid, and then she starts growing into her own, and she becomes much more enjoyable as the film goes on. The three of them just work so wonderfully together, though, and each of them is just giving it their all, which is absolutely what you need from a crazy, absurd film like this. So you've got amazing, perfectly executed comedic performances, a perfectly executed comedic screenplay here, and then you throw on top of that the typical trademarks that we've come to expect from a Yorgos Lanthimos film, the wide angles, the skewed perspectives of different shots, and it just makes for an incredibly refreshing take on a period piece I can guarantee you've not seen a period film like this before, ever, probably. And I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on slightly the gender politics and the sexuality politics of this film, because it does feel quite progressive in the way it tackles... I'm not even gonna call them issues, because they're not issues. But any other period drama might bring it up as an issue, but I love the way that this film just doesn't give a fuck. On a joke-by-joke level, this is probably the most effective comedy of the year for me. But it is also quite poignant at moments, and I love that kind of aspect to it. I loved it. I can't wait to see it again. I think it's going to go down an absolute treat with basically everyone. Like all of Yorgos Lanthimos' films, this one probably more so. There's something just so enticing about how strange it is. But what about you guys? Have you seen a favourite yet? If you have had the pleasure of watching it, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what you think. And let me know who you thought did the best job out of the central trio of actresses here. Could be all of them, which is arguably the right answer, because they are all fucking fantastic. But if you've got a favourite, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know. As usual, if you did like this video and you want to see me talk about more shit, please consider clicking subscribe. Really helps me out, but also means you won't be missing any of the new videos I'll have coming out from the film festival. I don't even think we're halfway through, guys, so buckle in for that. Also, if you haven't already, please check out the StuTalks podcast. Links for all of that in the descriptions down below. But long story short, if you didn't know about it, I do a podcast. Fun times. It's usually a weekly thing, but at the moment, we're getting a couple out every week around the film festival, where we're going deeper into thoughts on films I've seen at the festival, and the favourite is going to be one of them coming up in the next episode. But links for all of that in the description down below, so you can check out that if you do want to. Until next time, though, stay beautiful, motherfuckers.